I'm going to read from a book called W.M. And it's a book that's two books, and it's a diptych. So that means that the two books are related to each other, even as stylistically they're radically different. And the first book is called Look Again, and the second book is called Portrait of M. I'm going to start by reading from the second book, because it's less narrative, and it makes more sense to me to go from the less narrative, more rhetorical, and frenetic to the more narrative tonight. So it took me 17 years to finish this book. I don't know why, but it did. So portrait, oh, I wanted to read the epigraph too. This part. And I who want power choose a girl who resembles a boy. And do you suppose I was agreed with and had any other one's idea? Juna Barnes, Nightwood. So portrait of M. Divine and common sense M, contradictory M, subject, object, and instrument M, who favors anarchic gestures of the body, of speech, of words, and everyday happenings, yet to some she appears as a mere typist, or reflection of others' opinions, their doxa of drawings and music, of social cues and serene remarks. Somewhere else she is a public figure tarnished by the swing of private gates. Imagine her as a sequence of appearances on a sizable screen. Imagine her as a concatenation of dance steps or provocations within a frame. Although she is said to be as wild as nature, you may come to think otherwise. You may observe she bewitches hardly anyone except a few people who want to love her. I can tell you about this personally. I can ventriloquize that. M's axe is clean. Her idiom is as thin as air at the tip of a melodrama, as dark as an oxidized coin, as recurrent as a cicada-lined tree. See, in the picture of a mine and a factory, M's a player and a figure. In a drawing of hookers and clients, she is the undisclosed subject, and she is none of these things. She is none of them but a grain in a reporting of ghost tides woven in leaves and clouds. On the next screen, flags wave for M. Here is the way to M. No way at all. No access to verb that isn't subject, no contrast that isn't complement, double and singular, triple and flat. Her civility is the glare off a mirror one holds up to her and her double holding the mirror. Thin as a flint, she rumbles in wagons across hurt farmland. She's a thundercloud water has slipped from into an elsewhere. In a picaresque scenario, she finds cause to punish a soothsayer. The visionary was descending Lombard Street, stopped at the fourth curve. Why couldn't the car continue down the hill? He was just stalled there with his window opened on my future. He envisions him there trapped, so she tosses him into a drawer of antiquity just up the hill near the red house hedged with squat shrubs. I'll see my future without your assistance. Above the scene, a prop plane hums a little tune as it gives off puffs of air mixed with news. What wants it? Needs it? Has it really gone? Signals from the prop's skywriting relay these questions during a brief commercial break. All ways are M's ways flares on a flat screen. How did she find her way here? Is she real? Does she shiver? Oasis and drought tumble into a sudden kiss. M is laughing as she types placeholders under a heaven of cross-dressed equipment rusting in a pristine landscape documented in a program dedicated to the recuperation of historical effects. M likes to instruct for no reason, and for the sake of the lurching rhetoric she puts forth as an indicator of her future's behavior. M has stopped at a next wilderness, and it is not lovely. She has no opinion about this. She's made a break with criteria, which she yet examines. In her examination, the criteria are blackboarded, then skewered, then molded into handsome animal forms, each branded on the thick part of their body with a word: accuracy, measurement, practical plan, proper subordination, system. Systems mixed with shadows have compelled her to seek her place in a natural order. This place is what she discovers in a hut, so clean you can eat off its floor. These are my sprays, creams, and lathers, my genders, my flagellations, she declaims to her mirror, the one with razor-sharp pages cut from Popular Mechanics magazine. The sky can be its own business pages, she observes, though the deposits whisked off these pages smudge her, and she admits to otherwise having been tarnished by filings in past litigations. The nice are the worst and the best are easiest to discard. Who wants needs what is flown? Discredit a real-time show as a fiction and you'll find yourself in a Zoom lens, says M, who one such discredited show romanticizes her, has placed her in a landscape faded under a garden arch, though Saving Grace is just a program M hides herself in when she prepares for battle. At the horizon, a wasting enemy waits. M breezes in with her army to meet it. She loves to care for her army. The hold of the brittle enemy's ship is gorged with a market of strung fruit, fresh meat, and cigarette commercials. Behind this facade are the backwaters and the blackwater testers who make a performance of swallowing smoke rising from the overpriced and hoarded fruit. See, they are on fire for a fight. Their flames flare up in a book where the withering enemy lurks in its pages. Next, a dead authority will spring to life, commenting that M uses her army as an ointment to soothe love's bruises. You might also observe that those fragile opponents of M's store photographs of loving old family members inside the book to discourage their ghosts from spreading panic in them. These are fearful battlers. There are too many of us. Daring not to speak it, they carry this knowledge inside, defending themselves silently from the loud M and those social media analysts who, like her, seek to expose their minute gestures and discreet routines to public scrutiny. M harbors the odd thought that crimes of passion do not truly exist, that this category of murder is no longer an operative term in the sweet anarchy of fantasy. There are always extenuating factors. All violent death is caught up in ruinous nature plus polemics. People are trapped by property which multiplies out of their control. It flows into nature fast. To possess nothing is the better way. People envy M for the blasé way she tosses her clothes onto the road. The clothing enlivens the road with the error of her ways, her absent-minded research, and the opacity in her claims to freedom. Freedom can be a bore sometimes. She knows I will repeat the phrase, and in repeating it for her, I will have pointed in her direction, locating her with her army at the bank that serves the machine with no engine. The army withdraws money in order to remind the enemy of all that's left as a kind of threat. On M's side of the mirror, money is otherwise as useless as a scar. She wants me to know where she is without her having to say anything to me. I know to rest at the stop. So what I'm going to read through from next is called Look Again, and that's the first book in WM. And it's for Ron Allen, 1947, 2010 poet, playwright, and innovator of zero airwaves. And then it's a dated work, 1958 to 2012, Los Angeles, Detroit. So 1958 is kind of the, I would say, the first memory trace in the book, and 2012 is, I didn't start writing it in 1958. It's just the first trace of memory is dated in it. And then it was finished in 2012. And there's a kind of meshing between LA and Detroit. So I live in Detroit, and I was born in Los Angeles. Will is going, it's numbered sections, and actually I just decided I'm going to read the numbers so you can see me jumping around. 5, Will is going blind, can't read email. He calls as we share an interest in the same music. Did you hear the program? No, I lied. I can't make you get into it. No, another lie. There's a meeting tomorrow, come if you can. Okay. Let me read you my notes. Okay. I'm finding the term cosmic deficient, but I don't know what to put in its place. I'm trying to peel away at description and find some space for folks who need a break. I'd like to inspire some revolutionary fervor as well, but only a couple of them of late have responded favorably at meetings to my economic analysis of the cause of their poverty and addiction issues. But those are the people who give me hope. I hope they will keep coming to the meetings. 5.8. What does will imply? What game of indirection and pointing? Am I the subject of Will's concern, or a friendly witness to the machinations of his critical vision? Is he speaking for the record or off it? Will his voice carry beyond the circuit of this transmission? 4, jamming facts with pronouns and non-entities or non-identities. That's what a guest artist on yesterday's radio called it when speaking of the music of improvisers across several decades. Who wants to be who they say I am, or even they are? I was born in 1946 on a bolt of plaid in the family shop. Disgusted, I might add. A set of instructions follows the artist's self-portrait. Ease into the play, mix California and Detroit, laugh a little. Turn the energy of revulsion into hot when the springs go icy. Tweak Fallout's trail to a shivering E-flat. Friend your enemy. Turn your back to it too, and show your face. Be confrontational, peeling back to naked. This is an ephemeral world. Why represent it as a Christmas tree for more than 3 seconds? Give more than a nod to poverty. Be rich in spirit. Keep the platitudes changing, blow into dirt. Then nest at the end of a tunnel you have bored into a bank. Give birth to something sacred, scared, or foreign. Ten. This is for Mara, who will recognize it. The body is a temple, says the preacher. It has also been said that a man's home is his castle. This castle is replicated in the malls. A woman, such as myself, delivers her body to the mall, and on each visit, a metaphorical drawbridge is raised. Inside the castle is the Feast of Kings. Every day can be a preparation for a great feast. A poet once claimed that the liberal state was the individual against any public wall, explains my dear friend, the charming scholar Willem, while greeting me in the parking lot. Today and every day in our district, the individuals feast on the delights of private enterprise. I want him to go inside with me. So I suggest provocatively, there are no private walls around here. When one takes a lover in the liberal state, is the wall a marriage license? When one takes a lover in the castle, where the feast is under preparation between the canned soup and the meat counter, it is the inattention to time passing which becomes a violation of the temple. At the feast, we walk hand in hand, around and around, looking at all the sights until we find ourselves staring at a scruffy little sea bass mounted on the wall, singing, "Take me to the river, throw me in the water." "This," says Willem, "is what you brought me here for. But the river is only a commodity, or the representation of a moat surrounding the walls of the heart." "11. It is another day, and Willow, who doesn't drive, is making her way out to see me in the suburbs by bus. In order for her to get here, she will wait for some indefinite time in a bus shelter. The shelter's roof will be torn to shreds, and the wind will howl around her ears. Everybody waiting will be hunched over in bitter cold. People will complain or not talk, except Willow, who has managed what she calls a permanent sabbatical. Her monologue of relative freedom, peace, community, and sanctuary nearly bites my head off. I just sit around all day and don't really care about a living soul and make a record of anything I can that reminds me of her, is what she implies with every word. You can't let go of what happened. She feeds me lines the way Wanda fed the whip to Sacher Masoch, although I would never dare to beg Willow to come back. The world could end tomorrow. 12. Wanda is correct. I spent a lot of time rehearsing what's happened, making some kind of mental or actual record, writing things down. Everywhere you turn, there's some scrap of paper with a note. Clearing my sofa of messages mixed with bills will take hours. I type for a little while, mostly job applications. Make it to the unemployment office in time not to be asked by the security guard to return first thing in the morning. Sit in the back row of chairs, advance from chair to chair, row to row. The hall flows with folks yucking it up, mostly from an auto assembly local. It's how we get family time, all part of the system, someone explains to me, the noob. But the twisted torso, swollen, slippered feet, misaligned legs, hunched shoulders, the difficulty in standing up tell a different tale. 12.9. The tale is part of a reality that can't be easily shared unless you are in it. When one is able to arrange to participate in a tour of assembly plants, what one sees is as light and smooth as two workers kissing in the front seat of an open convertible. Austerity measures. These had been threatened and then imposed. Times changed and the measures were deemed no longer necessary. But the family imitated the state mandates long after life had returned back to normal. The family sustained their commitment to austerity measures, carrying their know-how into the future where no one seemed to have the slightest regard for such wholesome practices. This family could sacrifice at will and yet maintain its self-sufficient way of life. Beyond the family enclave, people were no longer people. They were mobs living without thrift, and having lost their personhood, they were unable to plan for the future. Their piggy banks were empty. After Frederick Law Olmsted, the ball game, hard drugs, church, a particular weather forecaster, lovable geek, cereal boxes, weapon humor, police and prison jokes, cock and tit and Viagra jokes, accents and dialects and plain-spoken Americans and elitist intellectual discourse, Gary Gilmore memorials, and more Jackie O. the only non-American Olympic athlete featured on American primetime television. Representations of drooling teenage boys, of girls with 10-word vocabularies, of young men designated potential criminals, of tribal piercings and progressive causes, of Green Party constituents, of children going to church, to school, to city park programs, the national narrative of overcoming obstacles, awards for excellence in protected domains, soft screwball-carrying adults, the fallible but lovable American romantic, money-grubbing bureaucrats and corporations running for personality contest politicians, the worst chefs in America, religious values, goodness, the shrink-wrapped middle class, labor unions as institutions of the classless society, stressed-out kids, ignorant and negligent parents, bad schools, bucolic ads of old folks running in the wind, the 47th execution on New Year's Eve in Texas on the brink of the real millennium, white folks still here, the early 20th century demand for a non-decorative art of American reality, its regard for simplicity and open natural spaces, healthy children, women symbolizing nature and a new freedom, looking like flowers, represented alone for the first time in open park areas post-fin de siècle. Something, 21. Window persists in refusing to meet my other friends. She dislikes what she imagines as their jealous, earnest judgments. Window recently refused to live with me, even though W claims it is not something he would particularly notice. Window says my fantasy about her living here has nothing to do with what's real. She has never eaten at my house before, and is, before its closing, refused to go shopping with me at Castlemar. She wouldn't let me hold her baby or take the child on day trips when she was older. What's real is something you don't get. I do get it that Window is an honest person. She says she doesn't love me, but that my unanchored psyche fascinates her. You're entertaining, she says. You watch things happen like you're not noticing, like right now my hand's on the back of your neck. You're almost in a sweat, but you're just going to sit that way with that plain little smile on your face, carrying on about something else. Something else. Will they keep the window open when they do the bugs? 22. The infestation began during the era of shared sacrifice, when it seemed that almost everything had assumed the form of neglect. Even as the neighbor still vigilantly walked his dog and a certain W from a distant state attended to his health, jogging every morning and enjoying classic hard-ons every night from the station of his kinked-up sofa bed. And even as I continued to make an anarchic record of some of those things that would otherwise go unrecorded, there was a common understanding that in the grand scheme, everything had been more or less neglected. Or we could tend to, but not be tended to. Our anger would not be noticed, nor the care with which we addressed one another. So the neglect was not exactly coming from us. A decision would be made, and after there was no turning back, no rethinking a problem, as this would cause an unbearable pause in the forward motion of the daily narrative. Or was it coming from us? We, or W, wanted to step out of the picture, the forward motion of the daily narrative. We wanted to deliberate slowly, preferably while on the sofa bed, a bed free of bugs. The infestation continued, passing through our desire, never resting on the bed. We called it greed, an acronym for galvanizing retributive event-ending deeds. We called it stun, for still turning up nothing. We called it other things than what it was because it had exhausted its meaning, and yet the infestation gave us the eerie sense that every sound we made had been picked up by a glutinous swarm which lived off of our noise. The swarm would shrivel into insignificance only if we quieted down, fashioned ourselves into an altogether different style of creature. The swarms grew as we ceased to change. We wanted to step out of the picture. I'm going to end with present scene. Present scene. The imprint, holy grail, some magnified regret, recuperation of the lost item, singing to bring it back, singing to please a skeptic, proffering one's own regret as hers or his, collecting relational debris, finding room for it in one's quarters, having quarters, being in the black, stuck in a doorway. If you do or don't, damned either way, tendril brushing skin, money changing hands, then no hands but money, then no money but a tune. Miles Davis cool, brought forth from a satellite dish, throwback to Sputnik in an airspace of drones, spacing themselves in quick bursts in the red economy, in the red desire. Coughing lovers stumble out from the overhang of the Fox Theater, take their time in a southwesterly direction. Weather, impatient with their slow pace, pushes them forward. They cover their heads with their coats, wipe their faces with the back of their hands, pause at the entry of a club, kiss in a thunderclap. Inside, ringtones pick up rain, give back a waking world, codify noise, riddle up space, lots of space. A resurgence of weeds, pillows of thought in the dying city that won't give up. It being not. What? The city is not a man. Sleeping, standing up in freezing rain, and the bakery's early hours. Thanks.